We're going. We're live.
Hey everybody. We're in Kansas with Jen. Come on in. In fact, tell us where you're from. If you guys are coming into the Periscope live. We know that a lot of you are watching back later, so thanks to all of my replay viewers who are watching this later. But if you're here live, where are you from?
Illinois, Ohio, Oregon, Netherlands, Norway.
No big deal.
Seattle, Utah, Hawaii, Kansas. Someone's from Kansas.
Oh, neighbor.
Louisiana, Washington, Canada, Finland, New York.
Can you believe?
Wisconsin.
Yeah, Norway. Hey, Norway. Did I meet you, Norway? Because I was in Norway and Sweden last year. Did I have any of you who are in here right now, did we meet this past summer by chance over in Scandinavia?
Not
We're
sure yet.
strangers. We've got to meet sometime.
Someone is just down the road from you, Jen.
Who is it?
I don't know.
Who's down the street from Jen? Make yourself known. Not fessing
Oh,
up.
someone from Cornwall who met you.
Oh, who met me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey, Cornwall. Awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, that was in Canada last fall. Cool. Okay, so thanks for being here, you guys. And if you've been following what Project Photo Rescue is on Instagram, I'm exclusively sharing it on Instagram. I mean, we're here on Periscope, but I haven't been doing it on the other social media channels just for simplicity's sake. But if you've been following what this is, then you know what's going on. If you don't know what's going on, just go over to Instagram. You can catch up. But we thought it might be good to share a portion of what we're going through with you guys on Periscope. And we're pretending that you're not here. So Jen can feel a little less intimidated. Not that you feel intimidated, but it can feel a little...
I just haven't done this before.
Yeah, this is new. It's new territory for Jen. I've Periscoped a lot, but I haven't done what I'm doing with Jen ever. And that's what's really unique. We haven't talked a whole lot about that, but that is what's so unique about this for me, is that I've never done something so thorough with an individual. I've had lots of conversations over 20 years with different people in different situations with their different memory keeping like stuff, but to go so deep and so back to the roots and then build up and go through all this with one person is unique for me to do that with Jen. And so far we are loving it. So we've had 2.5 hours together yesterday, and then today we're diving in. And so we just got here to Jen's house. We're in Kansas. Molly's holding the phone. And so she's gonna, this is really, it's just us. And well, Mom, come over and say hi if you want. We should also introduce you to Jen's mom. This is Jen. Hello. Jen came in from Oregon, so she's here as well. So fun.
It's so fun and so exciting.
And she made those darling cookies that you might have seen on Instagram yesterday too. So that's fun. She came out, and then Finn and Lily are Jen's 2 children. One's here, one's away from home right now and coming home soon. And anyway, so we're here. We're gonna be what?
Wendy from the office wants to tell Jan hi.
Our office. Not the office, the show.
Our
the
office.
Cooler office. Our office. But Wendy really could have her own show. Let's be honest.
You guys could have a show.
Oh my goodness. You know, Wendy has talked about having like BH after hours, because that would be Wendy. Wendy,
Totally.
you could do that show. We all know it. In fact, they probably are doing something crazy and silly at the office behind your backs today. All right, so let's do this. We had a major assessment yesterday. That's what all yesterday was we talked and talked and talked, and really I got a sense of some things that I was wondering about for you, but you probably also, Jen she didn't have a heads up on any of these questions I was asking yesterday. And so it really kind of put you on the spot, for better or worse. And you did great. And everything that you answered and the insight that you shared helped us to really go, okay, this is where she's at with certain things. And you probably realized for yourself, right? Because maybe those are things that you haven't thought about before, of really like articulating. So then we grabbed all your scrapbooks and we pulled them all out and we started looking through them, and we did a full assessment of like your albums. And how many did you have?
25.
And how many did you think you had?
About 10.
Yeah. So that's shocking.
Yeah.
And I was sharing with you, like, that was shocking for me too when I realized how many I had. Like, when you're already a scrapbooker, you feel, you know what it is? And especially because we're women, I think we beat ourselves up so much. Not in a, like, terrible way, but I think we just always feel like there's so much more I could be doing. And so we focus more on what we haven't done.
Right.
That, how telling is that you thought you had about 10 and you had 25, and I thought I had about 50 or 60 and I had 138 or whatever. That's nuts.
That's crazy.
So that kind of just dawned on me, that I think that that's probably pretty common of women, and I hate that we do that. I really do hate that we do that, but we do focus on what we haven't done. So now, your homework assignment last night was to snuggle up with your kids and your mom even, and just look through scrapbooks and just be with them and just kind of acknowledge whatever feelings come to mind. So that's kind of where I want to kick off as we go through this, what I'm calling an emotional assessment of having looked through the scrapbooks. Is I want to talk to you about your honest feelings about what you experienced as you went through the albums. And I fully acknowledge that that I don't have any expectations with that, nor should you. I wanted you just to be with the scrapbooks and really just go through them and feel the memories and just kind of enjoy them for what they are, while also acknowledging other feelings that might come up, which is, it could be anywhere from, I can't believe I documented that, like why does that even matter? Or, man, if I hadn't recorded this back at that time, like it would have been completely lost on me, And so when you think back to looking through your scrapbooks last night, because we haven't talked about this yet, what are some of the main feelings that kind of came out of your flipping through?
Just, first of all, that I just need to take the time more to look at them with my kids, because they loved them. And they, just looking back at the pictures from when they were younger, they were cracking up over different things, and so it was fun. Do
you feel like you haven't been looking at your scrapbooks nearly enough?
Right.
Can I relate to that? I totally can. I mean, I definitely have spent more time scrapbooking in my life than my family and I have actually sat down and looked at them. That doesn't mean that we have to make it even, or we should be looking at the scrapbooks more than there's no science to that, and there's no right or wrong, and there's no what you do is different than what the next person's going to do is going to be different than what I do. And that's cool. But for you acknowledge that for all the time that you've already invested in scrapbooking, you don't look at your scrapbooks.
Like, I find that after I've scrapbooked some pages, I'll show them, show the kids, and be like, oh, look what I made, and we enjoy that, and then it goes on the shelf, and then, I don't know, when we open them up again.
I'm curious if other people relate to that as well, because I totally do, and that's okay, but I like that you've acknowledged it. And I like that I've noticed that when I've gone through this myself, is I'm like, holy cow, my kids haven't seen a lot of this, or if they did, they saw it the one time.
Right.
And so it's like, man, are my efforts wasted? Why am I doing this?
And a ton of people agree.
Yeah.
For sure, definitely, yes.
And it's interesting. I don't think that this conversation could actually be had the way it's happening now 20 years ago. So when this industry was newer and there were a lot of us who were getting started, and I know not everybody's been scrapbooking for 20 years, but some of us have, and when you think about it, historically, that definitely was not the time for us to think about whether or not we were spending enough time looking at the scrapbooks, because everything, all of our focus and our energy at that point of the industry as a whole, individually and collectively, was scrapbooking, and doing a lot of it, and scrapbooking everything, and being creative with it, and there's just that kind of global emphasis and priority. So now, I think, no matter how long you've been scrapbooking, I think it's a very interesting thing to kind of circle back, step back, and look at this hobby a little differently, which is to say that a lot of us do have mini scrapbooks, and are we actually looking at them? And I would encourage anyone who's kind of in that situation, who agrees with that whole notion that we're scrapbooking and that's great, but people aren't really looking at them. I would say that that's partly due to us. We are not positioning our scrapbooks in a way that entices someone to pick it up and look at it. I noticed that about myself. I mean, I've got lots of scrapbooks tucked away and behind, because it's storage. Right. I mean, it's not like we can have all of our scrapbooks sitting here in front of your fireplace. Right. It doesn't make sense. And so anyway, that is a big acknowledgement. So you already have just felt like you need to take more time to look through your scrapbooks.
Yes.
Okay, what else have you noticed when you were going through them?
It wasn't like I thought it would be harder emotionally to look back on certain things.
It was not as hard?
It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be.
What was it?
Just from times before the divorce, and like looking through that with the kids. I didn't know how they would react, and it was just fun. It was great to look back on the good times that we had, and it didn't get to me like I thought it might.
Well, and I think time heals.
Right.
And so for you, it's been a number of years, and so
Right.
it's not like it just happened last year and it's still really raw.
Right.
That would I would say that's a big part of why it didn't affect you as deeply, and I think that's really cool. That's actually really cool that you pointed that out. Okay, so it was not as hard or painful as you thought it would be to look back at times that are no longer. You know, whether they were happy times when everything was fine in your marriage and your family and stuff, but also other difficulties in your life. It wasn't eating you up as you were flipping through the scrapbooks. Okay, and that's not going to be the case for everybody, but that's why this is so personal and individual. That's your experience. So good. Anything else that you wanted to point out about that?
Just that the kids had a lot of questions, and we looked through the album that my mom made me from when I was one album from birth to when I graduated high school. And there was a picture of me sitting on Santa's lap. And they're like, well, what did you ask Santa for that year? I was like, I don't know. So it's kind of something to think about when I'm documenting their albums, that, you know, those little things are things that they may be curious about.
No, we were talking about, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah. We were talking about that yesterday. Remember when we were saying, like, there's something to the facts. There's something about the who, what, when, where. But the why is, you know, like just as interesting, if not more. So I totally want to know who Uncle Billy Bob was and where he lived and what his job was. That's fine, but it would be so interesting if I knew, like, if he struggled, like how he dealt with that, or what his funny quirks were, or if he always had a silly saying that he just always came out of his mouth. What you asked for Santa, like I couldn't tell you one thing that I asked Santa for. I don't remember sitting on Santa's lap, actually. Anyway, so those little details, what you're realizing is what matters to your kids is starting to filter into your thoughts, isn't it, as a documenter? So that's part of why the homework happened last night, is because I knew that you were going to recognize what you felt you should do more of or less of. So that kind of leads into my next question is, in looking through your scrapbooks, what do you feel like matters? And what do you feel like doesn't matter? And there's no right or wrong to this, but it'd be interesting to know what you found.
Some of the things that I found that didn't necessarily matter were like a date on every single day or every single week necessarily. And we kind of talked about this last night a little bit too. But you do need like an approximate time period, so like a yearly date or even, you know, monthly. But I had some albums where I dated every single day of the year. And did it really matter that that happened on February 6th? You know? It's
subjective, right? Yeah. Like to some people that will matter, and what you're realizing, it doesn't. It really doesn't matter. And when you see a picture, if I handed you right now a photograph of your mom as a young girl, you would not go, yeah, but when was that? Was that April of this year?
Right.
Like, who cares?
It's more like, how old was she?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Roughly.
No, right.
Not like to the day. Yeah. Okay. So that's great to know.
Allie Edwards is in here and has mentioned a few things.
Hey, Allie.
She said that going back always helps you realize what you want to do moving forward, and
that's
how
exactly
fantastic it is to do that.
Amen, Allie. That's exactly it. And Allie and I think very similarly about a lot of this. In fact, Allie will be talking about, I'm sure, a couple of the scrapbooks that she's made based on what you have helped people to do. But that is one of the points that I want to drive home with Project Photo Rescue in general, is that as scrapbookers, we don't, and I'm being general, I'm being very general and stereotypical when I say this, but I'm including myself in it. I don't think that we spend enough time looking at what we have done in order to decide what does make sense for us moving forward. And that is super individual. And so what you kind of find and looking back is not going to be the same experience that Molly might have sitting down and looking at her scrapbook. She might be more inclined to go, thank goodness I put dates on everything, which isn't necessarily the case, but you know, you brought up that example, and different things will matter to us. And there's just not a blanket solution for everybody. And so that's why it's important that each of us goes back and looks at what we have done. We look at what we have done so that we can move forward with that. Thanks, Allie, for being here. You're so awesome and chiming in. Okay, so what else did you find matters and doesn't matter?
And another thing that didn't matter, and again we talked about this, was I had all of the slips from my son's doctor visits.
Oh yes.
With the height just little random facts like that. And I was thinking as I was going through, like, when I read that, does it make me feel anything? No.
That's poignant.
It's just kind of, it's a statistic and it's there, but it doesn't make me feel anything. But if I read something like a quote one of the kids said, then that makes me feel something, and it's emotional. And so I think like more of the smaller details that are emotional, but not necessarily the factual. I mean, and there's like, you want to mix too, but
you do want to mix. You want to mix. Like, I'm with you, right? Like, this is about you, and you want that mix. I tend to agree with that for myself. I want to mix. I think that sometimes the facts and the information are interesting.
right.
It's the emotions that are really significant. And I will venture out to say that I think that a lot of people just had a big aha moment when you said that. Because if we are looking through our scrapbooks and we're actually feeling something, we remember and we connect with that. And that is one of the most beautiful things about scrapbooking, is that we connect with who we are and where we come from. And I don't mean that just in a biological sense. I mean, we all have a story. And when we connect with the things that have happened to us in the past, the good times, the bad times, everything in between, then we are more grounded in a sense of who we are and what we're doing here and what our purpose is and how we want to move forward. And that's why I keep saying that scrapbooking is so much about being more keenly aware of how blessed you are, because when you do that, it does motivate you to like keep going in a way that makes sense for you in terms of cultivating that best life possible. So thanks for providing a major aha moment for people. Seriously, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Does it make me feel something? So those papers that you got from the regular doctor checkups, they didn't make you feel anything. Is it silly that you kept them? Not necessarily.
Right.
But that's what you were processing last night. So the question is, if you had a baby today, would you save those? There's no right or wrong to that. So that's what you're learning about yourself. So what that tells me is that even though you don't necessarily find this major value, emotional value in those things, they matter.
Yeah.
The little things matter. Why? Because they're little pieces and little bits of evidence of your child.
Right.
So something I'll turn my attention to you guys, something that was interesting that Jen and I were talking about last night, and it kind of hit me differently than I had thought about it before, is that the reason why, because she was laughing, like when she was looking through her baby albums and seeing like those pieces of the doctor appointments and stuff, and kind of like, why did I save these? And I was realizing, like, you know why we save so much from babies, besides that we just love them and we want to document everything about them, is they do nothing but eat and sleep and poop. And so we like reach for anything that's about the baby, because we love them so much and want to document, and so we just preserve everything.
Right.
So that's okay. That's okay. All right. Did you want to say anything else about what matters or doesn't matter from what you recognized?
One other thing I noticed, my albums are heavy on pictures and less on journaling, and there are a lot of things that I wish I had taken time to write more on.
Okay.
Or even, and it's hard when the kids are younger, but now as they're getting older, I want to get kind of their voice in the albums a little bit too, and their perspective on things. And I've included things they've said, but that's about it. I just wish I had taken time to document more of the story part of it, rather than just focusing on pictures and facts like dates and events.
Remember the layout that we saw last night with the pictures from your grandparents?
Yeah.
And you guys had acquired some pictures, and so you printed some of them and put them in. But then what were you saying about the pictures?
Like, I knew who was in the pictures. That was about it.
And what would you wish that you knew when you see these great pictures of your grandparents, just kind of off the hip, like what comes to your mind right now that you would love to know about your grandparents from that time in their life?
What did they like to do? What were their hobbies? Even like my grandparents and great-grandparents, how they met.
Because you don't know how they met.
Mm-mm.
Does your mom know how they met?
Probably.
Then we'll ask her. We'll get that taken care of over here. We'll get that story. That's awesome.
So just, more of their story, like what was a day like then. Like
big stuff and little stuff.
Yeah.
That's what's interesting to you, and that's what you would want to know. And that really segues so well into what my next question is what did you feel was missing in your documentation? So you're saying, I've been heavy on the pictures, not enough journaling. So you have recognized that, again, this isn't necessarily the perfect formula for everybody, but you would like to have more actually written down, more explanation, more story. So you've got that. You said it, you thought of it, that's what's in your heart, so that's cool. Anything else that you felt like was missing from your documentation?
Just, again, like we had talked about, the completed projects, like the albums that I love are ones that are completed. And so I think just focusing more on not making sure everything's perfect in it, but, you know, if you have the things I had completed, I wasn't looking through there going, oh, well, but I didn't have this in there, I didn't have this in there. So I would rather have one completed album that may not be, and there's no perfect, but like my ideal than 5 albums that are halfway done and I'm constantly thinking I need to go back. And
do you think anybody relates to that, like undone projects notion? Does anybody relate to that?
I would assume so.
So, and Jen knows that I have some incomplete, not completed.
A ton of hearts, for
You guys
sure.
relate to that for sure, and that's what I wanted to make sure that you felt last night. Is like, not only is that so common, but it is also okay. And if something happened and we got hit by a bus tomorrow, you know, you think about like what's left. That's not to be morbid. It's just a theory. If I'm gone like that tomorrow, unexpected, what's left? And how would I feel about those half-done albums? Well, they're half done. Like, you have awesome documentation. And you and I think very similarly. Like, I really want to finish my incomplete albums, even if it's a like quick summary of the rest of the year, or you know, something. It doesn't have to be as thorough, but it's just I am such a tie a bow on the top of things, topics, conversations, people, feelings, scrapbooks. You got to tie a bow on it, and so I think that you're probably similar that way, and that's part of what we'll get to later today in terms of your game plan and how we want to move forward. Is kind of I would never say that people should finish what they haven't finished. That's unnecessary pressure, but you have the desire to do that, and so we'll make that happen. I think that that's totally doable. Molly and I actually were talking about something last night, speaking of which, and Molly was asking the question. Remember, Molly, what we were talking about? What was your question about the fizzling out? Remember the timing?
Yes. It seemed like a lot of your albums kind of fizzled out at summertime. Yeah.
And we should also interject that this is a chronological approach. So scrapbooking is not about chronology, but if you do approach it that way, and I do, and you do, then that's what Molly was like. I wonder what it was that, you know, a few years over, it seemed to be around the summertime. Not always, but my only comment to that, without having talked to you, was summer gets crazy for so many of us, and we lose our regularity and our like systematic lifestyle. And so, do you think that that's part of what played a role, or do you have any other thoughts on that?
That would be my best guess. You know, and I have a group of friends that we get together and we scrapbook, and we try to do it on a regular basis, but we don't, you know, always. But then summertime, everybody's gone on vacation, or, you know, kids are home from school, and you're just always going, and it just gets crazy. And then I think you kind of think, well, I'll wait till school gets started back, and then it just takes a while before.
And then it's the holidays, and then you've.
So then the new year, I'm ready to go again.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's also interesting that for some reason the new calendar year, fresh start, 2016, it's January, this is when I'm going to start up again. A lot of people feel that way, which is awesome. It's great because we need any motivation that we can get. Right. And then we find that many of us do struggle to like stay up with that. And that's why it was just kind of, it struck us as interesting, and it is very common. It's very, very common, and that's okay. And
Jen. Yeah. Carrie said, do you know Carrie?
Our Carrie on our team?
No, her friend.
Oh,
yeah. She said you guys will for sure scrapbook this summer.
Awesome. They're going to make that happen. Thank you, Carrie, for making sure that happens. And Carrie, we will be talking about her like scrapbooking with you and other friends. It's going to be part of the game plan that we'll talk about. So I'm going to want to be a fly on the wall at these little scrapbooking things. So fun. Okay, let's move on to, we'll shift gears a little bit. And I realize that this Periscope, by the way, this is longer than I think that I typically have a goal to do, but we're just going to keep filming if you guys are cool with that, because this is helpful, and it might be helpful, and if it's not helpful, they'll drop out. But, you know, if this is helpful for other people, then great. You cool with that?
I'm cool.
Okay. When you look back at your scrapbooks, you've done Creative Memories, you've done Project Life. I mentioned Allie's in here, or was in here, and she has developed a couple of very coined types of scrapbooks that have helped thousands of people. One of them is December Daily, one of them is Week in the Life. You've done both of those, and she does lots of other fantastic, inspiring things for people to scrapbook. I was noticing that you were really particularly drawn to those completed. They were ones that you actually completed, Week in the Life and December Daily, start to finish in one album, done. Project Life, you love it, and you love the format and you love the ease of it, but then it wasn't completed. So I noticed that about you yesterday as we were looking through your scrapbooks together, is that completion of, no matter what the approach is, really means something to you. And I relate to that. Like I was saying, like I totally connect with that as well. So having said that, all these different types of scrapbooks that you've done, what style of scrapbooking or approach do you feel makes the most sense for you going forward? And you can be global and big picture about that, or you can be really specific. And there doesn't have to be one type. If you need to be the type that mixes it up, I want to hear all of that as well.
I love the Project Life for my yearly documentation. And we were talking yesterday about how I like the creativity part of it, and it's not stressful to me. But then thinking about that, it used to be when I was doing a 12 by 12 traditional scrapbooking, that the creativity for that was very stressful for me. I guess just starting with a blank canvas. But with Project Life, I like that you have some direction to start with as far as the pockets and so you're not just starting from something blank, and it's easier for me to be creative in that format.
Yep.
And so I can have fun with it more and not stress out about what needs to go where, and developing a whole layout and then adding to,
I follow
your
you.
format is there already, and so
Yeah.
I can have fun with it easier and be more creative with it.
I bet a lot of people relate to that as well. And I think that another reason why Project Life is so much less overwhelming is the whole system was developed to just slip things in pockets and just move on. And that's not everybody's cup of tea. And the thing that we recognize about you is that creativity and just little bits and pieces, that's a very integral part for you. You actually like to be creative. You want to be, and if you just had that stripped away, it wouldn't be the same experience, it wouldn't be as fun for you. But the reason why I think that people who enjoy creativity are so drawn to Project Life even still is because when you think about it, there's traditional scrapbooking, you start with this. With Project Life, you're slipping your photos and your cards in or whatever, but your scale went from this to this. And so when you can be creative on a smaller scale, it's a lot less overwhelming. It's an actual tangible difference to go from this to this. And so that allows you to play and have fun and use products and embellishments and get creative if you want here, and not where do I even begin. So I think that's really cool. And I like that we've acknowledged that about you, because many of you know that I don't actually enjoy the creative physical aspect of scrapbooking. I do taking pictures and my approach and things like that, but the actual scrapbooking, I don't actually have that desire to be creative at all on my pages anymore. And so I love talking to people who think differently about that, because it's important to be true to what your personal desire is. Okay, awesome. So you feel like Project Life makes sense for you to continue on in terms of yearly documentation. Are you saying then that you want to keep trying for a chronological approach to scrapbooking, or do you know?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Do you know why? Do you know why that's a desire for you?
It makes sense to me. I don't know, to be able to have an album you can pull out and you know it's 1 year. I like the order of it, I guess. I don't know, and not necessarily I was doing daily at first, and then I was doing weekly, and not necessarily that, But as long as I have everything like in an album chronologically in the order they happened, and not perfectly, you know, like I'm not going to stress out if it's weeks are switched up or whatever. But I don't know, that's just...
That makes sense for you.
It does. Yeah.
Okay. And what are we choosing between when I say chronological? The other option, of course, is that you throw chronology out the window and you just focus on, maybe an album is of your trips or your travels. Maybe a different album is... Exactly. Yeah. So it's more thematic. Yeah. So you're saying chronology works for you. Now, do you have a desire to still do an occasional scrapbook that is thematic and not necessarily chronological?
Well, with the December daily, I think I'll always have a desire to do that because I love that I can be even more creative with that, and the week in the life. And other than that, like I think if I have my project life for the year and then do those two, I'm good.
See, you're creative.
For my kids,
I
was thinking a lot about what I want to be mine and what I want for them to have. And I think as far as the yearly albums, those would be mine, but then I do want them to have something to take, like a chronological documentation of their life, but not on the same scale, not an album every year for them. More like, I don't know, a layout for, and it would vary, I'm sure, but a month or 2 months in a layout, and just kind of the highlights of what went on.
Okay, that's super helpful that you've already thought that through. And we're gonna do a few more questions, and we'll go off camera and we'll create a plan. And that's where we're gonna come back to what you just said. We're gonna really lay out what you've thought about and make it kind of a game plan, because there's some more things to kind of think about with that. So I love that you're already thinking about that. Okay, great. Next question. When you were last night looking through your scrapbooks, one thing that I was challenging you to do is not just think about the actual scrapbook and those awesome completed pages, but also to reflect back on the experience as a scrapbooker that it was for you during that time. So you've done several scrapbooks over a number of years. What kind of feelings did you connect with when you went back and really dove into, like, I remember making this scrapbook. Like, I might look back at it now and go, why did I save this or that? But what were you connecting with in terms of your experiences?
I think a lot of it for me when I'm scrapbooking is I can be kind of reflective, and like you get so caught up in day-to-day life and it's crazy and busy, and sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm not spending enough time with the kids, I'm not doing this as much with them. And then as I'm putting those pictures in and journaling, it does bring back like kind of the big picture, and we did this and we did this. And so it just helps you to recognize, like you said, we focus on what we're not doing, and it helps you to really recognize and realize that there are a lot of things you are doing.
Sorry, Peppermint just asked if my arms were getting tired and wondered if that was weird.
Yes, Molly's arms have to be getting tired, right, Molly?
I got such strong arms. You have no idea.
Hey, Peppermint, glad you're here too. Oh, that's funny. I'm so glad that she's here. I love that you guys are here. This is really cool. I think that I'm going to just go to you guys after what Jen was just saying. It is so common for women to focus on what we're not doing instead of what we have, and there is, I don't know why we do that. I don't understand it. I think psychologically the fact that we're from Venus, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and we do have that tendency to really just beat ourselves up a little bit. Hopefully not in really unhealthy ways, but it's just natural. It's innate in us to be a little hard on ourselves. We do put expectations on ourselves that are kind of high, and and for who knows why. You just brought up a really good point. The fact that when we do scrapbook, it makes you reflective, and I do emphasize a lot about how it makes us so aware of how blessed we are. But to your point, you're saying it also helps you to realize that, even though as a mom I feel like I'm not measuring up to as much as I want to be, and in your case as a single mom, you have extra heavy responsibility that you've taken on and burden that you've taken on with that. And so of course you're going to feel like I'm not quite doing everything that I should be doing. And then look what happens when you scrapbook and you realize, you know what? My kids have a pretty good life, and I'm a pretty good mom, and we're doing pretty good. You know, that's amazing. That's really cool. I hope you guys are feeling that, because that's really cool. Was there anything else that you wanted to say in terms of how you felt about those experiences of actually scrapbooking?
Just for the fact that I do scrapbook a lot with friends, it's just like it brings back those memories of being with them and the social aspect of it. Yeah,
that's awesome. Do you feel? I know you do. What are your feelings about the therapeutic nature of scrapbooking? What do you remember? Many feelings of that when you were going through your scrapbooks last night, or was it really more on the fun, the social, and then the reflective?
No, I think it is like therapy for me. It kind of helps you process and work through things, and as you're going back and again, like you said, you're remembering things that you might not always remember, and it just kind of, I don't know, pulls it all together, and it is very therapeutic. And I always feel better afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you know, there's a quote, and I'm going to botch it. I don't know who said it, and I don't know the exact words, but it's something like this, and that is that I never knew how I felt until I wrote it down. And that's been part of the therapy for me in scrapbooking, and even in Instagram sharing. Like, just documenting at all helps me to put what's jumbled up in here, actually formulate it into words, sometimes no words, sometimes just the pictures, in a way that helps me to go, yeah, that's how I feel. That's it. I put it out there. It's in writing. I have it down. It's in the scrapbook or whatever. And so sometimes that's the therapy that comes from scrapbooking, is just that realization of how we actually feel about something, which again turns into the recognizing how blessed we are even during difficult times. So awesome. Was there anything else you wanted to share on that? Okay. Okay, I have two more questions. And this is going to be part of what segues into us creating a plan, even though we'll go offline, we'll go off camera for that part, but it's gonna kick our wheels into gear. Did you think about how many scrapbooks you want? And before you answer that, does that matter? Does that not matter? We talked about how, for me, in going through Project Photo Rescue for myself, I realized that there is a number that matters to me for my children. I don't want them to feel burdened by the number of scrapbooks that they have to take. I mean, it's weird to say scrapbooking and burden in the same sentence, because they're amazing and they're a blessing, but I have way more than I thought I did, and I don't want my children to feel like, really, Mom? Like, yeah, I want them to have about 6-ish albums when they are off. You know, when they have a family of their own, there's 6 albums that are all theirs. It's their stuff, it's their art, it's their whatever, and then they will have a series of our very thin photo book style family yearbook. So that for me was like a perimeter and a guideline and a goal that I've set for myself. So we talked about that yesterday. Did you think about that for yourself, and do you have in mind that a number, a quantity does matter, or not so much?
I don't know like the exact number that it matters necessarily, but for myself, I think I would like one for each year, at least for now when the kids are younger, and maybe, you know, as they get older and they move away, then I probably won't want a whole scrapbook for myself.
You never know.
For the year, but yeah, you never know.
So one album per year that would be your family yearbook that you are keeping here.
I would keep.
Okay.
And then for them, like I said, not one a year, but, and I don't know exactly what it would be, but, you know, at least a summary of their year, in several years in an album. So they have the highlights. And the highlights not necessarily just like
the big moments,
but just
a representation of who they are, what they did. Big stuff, little stuff. Got it. Okay. Anything else you wanted to say about quantity or? Okay. That's all I needed. I just wanted an idea of what you were thinking, and then we will definitely refine all of that with the game plan. So this is my last question. as far as this, what I'm calling this emotional assessment after you've had a chance to like pour through your scrapbooks. How do you feel like moving forward with this? However, we're gonna make a game plan here. How do you feel like it makes sense for you to approach memory keeping in a way that will bring you joy? And I ask this because I think that a lot of us can say, I have a game plan, here's my list of to-dos, and I'm gonna move forward, and then we just get overwhelmed for reasons of we weren't very realistic about what we said we thought we could do. And so we're not making decisions yet, but what's that, what are your initial thoughts on your approach in terms of how you can make sure that moving forward, this process for you is as joyful as possible, which means not a burden, not an inundating, just heavy feeling that haunts you because you're behind,
Right.
which I hate that word because we all use it. We get behind in scrapbooking. It's like, oh, no, that's not what this is for. Okay, so what do you think?
I think just not setting my expectations so high of myself. And I know there will be times throughout the year when I do have time to be more creative with my layouts, and times that it's going to be crazy and I won't. So just, being okay with the fact that if I have sometimes where I'm just slipping pictures and cards into pockets, then that's going to be fine too, because at least it's done. And I would rather be done and have it simple than have the burden of all of the back stuff to go back and catch up on.
Right.
So just being easier on myself, I guess.
Being easier on yourself and being flexible with your
Right.
approach. I love that because it allows you to just go, I'm going to be totally cool by keeping things simple for the next couple months because it's crazy. Or, hey Lily, or, I really am in the mood to be creative and just have fun for the next, I'm getting together with my girlfriends. Is that what you mean by that? Is just being flexible
Right.
with your approach? Okay.
Someone said done and not perfect is better than being perfect and not done.
100%. Amen. Whoever said that. Totally. And you feel that. I can tell that you actually feel that. And so, I see your baby doll. This is perfect timing, Lily, because we're done. Do you want to say hi to all of our friends in Periscope land? Do you want to come say hi? You want to sit with your mom? We'll sign out here in a second. So, Molly, did we miss any questions that are, or comments that should definitely be integrated into this conversation before we sign off?
Not really. Everyone is loving it, and it's super helpful, and they want to see more of the process.
Okay.
So
We'll share
we might
more
have
of
to do
the
this
process.
again later.
Yesterday when we were here, we were so focused on talking, and then I did all the sharing last night. Boom, 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 boom. And today, I hope that I'll just like sneak away for 5 minutes at a time and really say, okay, this is what we've done. So stay tuned on Instagram. That's where we'll be. And we really love that you're a part of this. They're following you. See, Jen and I are both on Instagram, and we see your questions and comments, and it's really kind of special for us that this is so, it's relatable. So many people get where you're at and feel the frustrations that you feel, and everyone's situation's different, but at the end of the day, everyone struggles in some way. That's why I did this for myself. Like, I've been a scrapbooker forever, and I have a ton of scrapbooks, but I'm still having hang-ups about how I move forward. And the last thought I'll share with you is that this is not about doing more scrapbooking at all. That's not at all what my goal is with Jen or with anyone or myself. It's not about how can I do more scrapbooking. It's about being more thoughtful and intentional about what we do and going forward. And that's why I love what you felt and understood last night, and what you were even talking to me about as far as like, I kind of wish that I knew such and such about my grandparents or my mom. I would love to have more stories about my mom, and she's here, and so we're gonna get some more stories, but like, right, Mom?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the most important, one of the most important things that we can do as documenters is think about what we wish we had and what feels right for us, and not just, what am I scrapbooking? What's the next thing that just happened? Am I using the latest embellishments? Am I using the latest product? Is this card cute? We just have to think bigger than that. So anyway, Yeah.
A few last questions.
Yeah.
We will be uploading this to YouTube. People
Yes.
want it up there ASAP.
This video, this
yeah.
Periscope, yes, we
Mhm.
have a whole Periscope playlist on the Becky Higgins YouTube channel. And so everything that we do on Periscope, we actually bring to YouTube within a week or so of the broadcast. So that's kind of fun. So this will live on forever and ever, Jen, whether we want it or not.
And last question, where is the yellow flowered pillow from?
Oh, Target. I have the same one. And you see the love pillow back there? That's from Target as well. Yes, we love our Target pillows that we did. Yes. How long have you had this?
A long time.
Yeah, because this one was out a little while ago.
Yeah.
I know. How can you not love this?
Tony doesn't want us to leave yet.
Tony. Hey, Tony. Hey, Wendy. Kara, Carrie, Laurie. I don't know if everyone's in here or not, but yeah, I love that Peppermint was in here and Allie, and I'm sure when I go back and watch comments, I'll recognize a lot of your names.
Christina Prophet's
Oh,
been in.
Christina,
And
yeah.
a couple of our creative team members.
That's
Yeah.
so cool. Okay, well,
So
we'll
fun.
let you guys go. This was a lengthy one, but hopefully you gained something. This is all about Jen, and I've said this many times. I'm here for her, and it's helping her. But it's also, the goal is that in what we share and what I personally take with this and do in the future is, I hope that it's helpful for a lot of people. So anyway, we love you guys. Peace out.